So, hello and welcome to another episode of Chasing Green Arrows. What a finals day we've had in the Premier League. This episode will be focusing on the Chelsea, and that's why I have with me a huge Chelsea fan, Mr. Zayan Babakhan. Zayan, how are you doing?
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Doing well. And Abrar Aziz, what's up, buddy? How are you?
All good, all good. Happy with the win today.
Happy. You're talking about Arsenal, huh? Or Chelsea?
Always.
But yeah, I mean, big with it's a big four now, and like this is what we were expecting for a long time coming, but it didn't look like it during the season that this was going to be the top four. United made a comeback, Chelsea stumbled. Zain, I'll go first with you. How did you find the performance today? It was a comfortable win, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think you guys saw the Chelsea game, but I think the first half, maybe we had some moments of looking a bit shaky, but overall, especially after we scored a brilliant goal from Mount and also Giroud, I never thought he would ever round the goalkeeper. But I think getting two before halftime, it was like a big relief for me personally, and obviously, I'm sure for Chelsea. And then second half, we were in cruise control. Wolves, even after they got Adama Traore, they didn't do much.
How is the defending though? Because Chelsea have been a bit shaky at the back, so but like a clean sheet today. So how is the defending today?
I think the defending, Rudiger looked decent. Zuma, I think, was probably our best defender. But I think today, it really looked like Lampard set his defensive line, and I think that players are also there mentally. So actually, this was one of the only games this season where we actually looked comfortable against like one of the big teams.
Yeah, and Don, your thoughts on Chelsea overall season? They're in the top four now. They could have got third place if you looked at the way United, Leicester are performing, but they also stumbled here and there. It's been an inconsistent season for the likes of United, Chelsea, Leicester. But your thoughts on Chelsea initially, and like now they're going to look stronger next season with the signings.
Yeah, I think the signings are very important for them, especially they've gotten a couple of really good guys with that, with Ziyech and they already Werner's done, Ziyech's done. I think Havertz is also almost there. So they have a strong reinforcement up front. Defense is a little shaky, like Zayn mentioned overall, but today they were actually. I saw that game actually on the other screen. So they did look pretty decent. I mean, the only thing is Wolves didn't, in my personal opinion, the Wolves didn't try as hard as I think they would if they had something to play for, maybe. But that's nothing to take away from Chelsea's performance in general. I think they were pretty good today, and then of course, like you said, a very good free kick by Mount, and then Giroud really surprises us. I would never expect him to do the rounding the goalkeeper ever. Also, he's more of a just kind of try and hit it hard kind of guy. So yeah, pretty decent performance overall. The season they'll definitely take a top four. They have the FA Cup also to look forward to. So, and the decent first season for Lampard.
Yeah, pretty decent. I mean, like the fact that he didn't have a transfer window, he didn't buy any players in the window for this season. I think he would have taken Zayan, as a Chelsea fan, you probably take fourth place in an FA Cup final, right? At the start of the season, if I told you.
Definitely, I think even the most optimistic of fans would probably be like top four and reaching a cup final. That's like I think that we've basically done what we done last season. We finished in the top four and then we won the Europa League against Arsenal. So it might be obviously a different competition, but maybe it might happen again. But this time we didn't have Hazard, and obviously circumstances were much worse. So it's actually a big relief in a way as well.
And the youngsters coming through, Lampard, Don, I'll go to you for this. Like Lampard has maybe if it was another manager other than Lampard, he probably wouldn't have like given this much exposure to the youngsters, and those youngsters have paid him back, right? Like with performances. So, like your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Lampard has was pretty set. Like he knew what he wanted from the season. I think he had all his plans set pretty nicely, and I think he's accomplished what he kind of set out to do. I think in the beginning of the season. I think if you told him in the beginning of the season, if you get a top four and if you make a cup final, I think he'd take that very happily as well. I think a pretty good season. He was almost always, except for the defense sometimes, of course, but he seemed tactical. He seemed like he knows what's up, and he was. Challenging pretty well, except there were a few hiccups here and there, but that's the nature of the Premier League, of course. So yeah, I mean, I think kudos to him. He did a pretty good job. this season.
Yeah, and yeah, for sure. And Zan, I would wanted to ask you, what would you like to see next year? Like, ideally, would you like them competing for the title? And realistically, also, what achievements can this Chelsea team achieve? Like, what do you think they can win? How do you think they'll perform with the taking into consideration the signings and everything else as well?
So I think starting off with the manager, you know, I'm actually really liking Lampard because unlike our previous two managers, especially Conte and Sarri, they had this system and philosophy which they always had in place. I think Lampard is very flexible, and we're actually seeing like good attacking football, like very fluid football. And if you add the likes of Ziyech and Werner, and potentially Havertz, I mean all those guys changing, interchanging like throughout the game and stuff. I think our attack, we are looking very good, and obviously we have our youngsters who've had a season of Premier League football. They'll be better next season. Maybe competition will make them better, even more better. And then I think defensively, definitely we need reinforcements. I think a left back is definitely a priority, center back, and hopefully even a goalkeeper. But I think that's kind of a difficult situation with the goalkeeper because he was dropped today as well. He's just not been worth the money, and he's on a 7-year deal. 2 years are done, so offloading him and replacing him is just a very expensive deal overall. But I think uh,
He's,
attacking
he's
wise,
made he's made some big mistakes as well. Like, it's maybe not as big as De Gea's, but like he has made some mistakes, especially like I've seen in the West Ham game as well. Kepa, at crucial times, I think he has made some mistakes. So you probably
yeah,
need someone more
I
composed.
think the main issue with him is he's like glued to his touch line, like his goal line. During corners, he doesn't come out. He's not commanding, and I think in the Premier League you need a commanding goalkeeper. So unfortunately, it hasn't worked out. But I think our attack is looking really solid. I think defenses, they win you titles, and our defense is not consistent enough. So I think we just need a leader at the back. You know how Liverpool had signed Van Dijk, and Man United to an extent with Maguire. So some sort of signing like that. I think we need some leadership in the back line, especially the center back. So I think once we sort that out, I think we'll be challenging. Hopefully.
All right. Yeah. So, sorry, Don.
Yeah, no, I think just to add to that, I think Kepa, that incident that he had with Sari, I think he hasn't recovered from that at all.
Yeah.
I
I
think that
didn't
was
like that from him as well, and I think that's. I mean, like, it happens in football, but you're right. I think it mentally affected him.
I think it's I'm being a little bit critical of him, of course, and it wasn't a
Yeah,
good, it wasn't a good it didn't show him in very good light, and since then I just feel like he wasn't great or anything. He was okay before that, but I think that has kind of put him down a little bit more in his confidence and overall like thinking as well. So that's just unfortunate. But he said like Zain mentioned, I just feel that it's going to be an expensive proposition to kind of have him replaced by someone maybe better. I just don't know who's out there. It's Zain if you wanted to add anything.
So I just wanted to add to Barbara's point that I think last season the spotlight was like on Allison more because he was, I think, the more household name, and obviously Liverpool are competing for the title unlike us. So I think Liverpool, he also did make some howlers, Allison, but then Kepa was not in the spotlight. I think he was having a fairly decent season, and then he did that with Sarri, which was by no means right. And I mean, he did play well towards the end of the season as well. I think even the start of the season he made some fine saves, but I think overall it just was never looked like a good buy. And this, I mean, we're gonna have an issue with signing a goalkeeper. We're linked with Oblak, but obviously he's one of the best keepers in the world, and yeah, I think he has a release clause of over 100 million. So I think getting him is almost impossible if you want to recruit in other areas. And then Onana has been linked. I mean, he's a good keeper, but is he the keeper who will help us go to the next level? You know how like Allison and Ederson took Man City and Liverpool the next step. Is Onana the keeper? I'm not so sure. So I mean, our scouting department and whoever's in charge needs to seriously consider the goalkeeper, because once you buy a good keeper, you're set for the next 10 years.
Yeah, for sure.
And Arsenal, for example, you had Czech, and then you had Almunia and all those guys, Fabianski. It was never stable, the goalkeeping department. I think Leno is an amazing signing for Arsenal, even though Arsenal aren't doing that well. But in terms of the goalkeeper, unless he hands in a request or something,
Yeah,
you
and
guys are
no, but I think Emmy Martin has also, since he's taken
Yeah.
over from that, he's been incredible. So
Yeah.
you're, I think it took us 15 years to get a solid combination of two good goalkeepers. It's just been in and out. There've been flashes of very good. Fabianski was good for a bit. There was Chesney that was good for a bit. Czech, Almunia, we had a whole bunch here and there, but no consistency over there. And that after pretty much after Lehman, I think this is the first time I'm a little bit more secured about my goalkeeping overall
Yeah.
for the season. So
Yeah, definitely. That's some good points. Just to round it off from both of you, I just want to get Chelsea's player of the match today, and then two more questions, short questions I have. But would Zan, if you go first, Chelsea's player of the match for today?
I mean, there are a few who I would like pick for my player of the match. I think Mount, because he got an assist and a goal, and also I think he was playing out of position on the right wing, and he was doing his job well, like pressing and stuff, and there was some good link up. I think shout out to almost the whole back line. I think they were superb. They didn't make any major mistakes. I think Pulisic had an off day, but we won. I think that's what matters most. So I think Mount, if
Mount, yeah, that's fair enough. I think Mount is with a goal and assist man of the match. And Don, for you?
I agree. I think his goal was pretty good, and then he was out of position, like Zaya mentioned, and he did a pretty good job at for the goal and assist. I mean, he had a pretty good game.
Okay, and Chelsea's flop of the season and the best player of the season. Don, I'll go with you first.
So, in my opinion, the best player has to be Pulisic. I think he's really been effective. He probably had a little bit of a downside in the middle of the season where he kind of just after that got injured also. But I think he started off well. He ended off well. I think Pulisic has been pretty good for them. And you can pick whichever, except for Aspilicueta, you can pick any of the defender or the goalkeeper for their flop for the season because they're that inconsistent.
Yeah, Zuma, Kepa, they haven't had good seasons, but yeah.
Yeah, a little bit harsh, but I think I'd give it to Kepa because he's made some really fundamental errors in the goalkeeping department. But,
yes, so you're going with Kepa as the worst and best Pulisic. Zayan, would you agree or do you have a different?
I mean, I have a different answer because I think if you break down that question of the best player, Pulisic, no doubt, if you're considering the restart as well. But I think it's important to know that he didn't start the season. Like, he didn't play many of the games the first couple months. He had a good run of form, and then he got injured from January till the restart of the Premier League. So, I mean, he's definitely helped help us get the Champions League. But I think in a player who does go under the radar is Kovacic, and Kovacic, I think he's been very consistent. I think he's been our best midfielder because Candy was also injured. So, he pulled the strings, he got us out in tight situations. So it would be between him and Pulisic, but I think in terms of season longevity, I would say Kovacic.
Kovacic as your player of the season and flop of the season?
I mean, as Abramovich said, our defense and Kepa were very much in the spotlight when it comes to being the worst. But I think we've had some players who've not performed at all this season. I can think of Batshuayi and maybe Loftus-Cheek after the restart, and then also Emerson. But I think in all seriousness, Kepa definitely, because he's not actually had any blunders, like goalkeeping blunders. Like, he hasn't let the ball go through his legs or something. But I think as a goalkeeper, he has not been commanding in so many goals, especially from set pieces. He's directly responsible. And also, you can't put the blame entirely on the defense because it's the keeper who has to be commanding. The keeper has to be communicative and say, this is who you mark, and he's not done that at all. So he almost, in a way, cost us top four. So unfortunately, it's our keeper.
Yeah. So Kappa for you, and Kovacic has the best player and Kappa is the worst. Okay. And just lastly, if you guys could rank Lampard's performance as manager out of 10, Don, I would go with you first.
Like I said, I mean, he couldn't sign anybody, but he did get a bunch of players from loan, but they were all youngsters and they were all not. He had a pretty like Zayan also mentioned in the beginning of the pod as well, that he said that he's been very flexible. He's chopped and changed a little bit. He's not stuck to a kind of system. He's had, I think, in my opinion, he has had a pretty good season. I give him a. I mean, just because he didn't finish third because they kind of were a little bit lackluster, but that's not entirely because of him. But I'd give him a 7 or 10. I think that's a pretty good, decent season.
Yeah, I think for WC, yeah, I just considering the fact that they were way ahead of United, I think third would have been better. But at the same time, like if you ask Zayan and Chelsea fans at the beginning of the season, they would have taken it. So I think it's been a good season for him, and he has potential. Zayan, what about you? Out of 10, Lampard's performance this season?
I think I'll probably give him a 9. It might seem generous, but
I mean, you have every right, Chelsea fans.
Yeah, because as I said earlier, no Hazard, transfer ban. He hasn't had a chance to bring in his own players, unlike for example, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Klopp. All these guys. He hasn't had that chance. He's had to bring players out of the academy, which no other manager for the longest time has done. So I think there's a pressure which comes being a manager of a top club and playing youngsters regularly week in, week out, not only just giving them 5 minutes, but actually playing them week in, week out, like Mount, Abraham, all these guys. So I think having that pressure to deliver results and playing all these kids, having, the transfer ban and no Hazard, and I think player injuries is what, Abrav didn't mention. We hadn't had Kante for a long time. Pulisic, Loftus-Cheek, Abraham had a lot of issues when he was getting in form. So I think you have to give him a 9. 10 would be maybe
much.
a bit too, because
I mean, I think even 9 is high for a neutral, but as a Chelsea fan, I get like I get what you're saying. Like as a Chelsea fan, like if you look at everything, I get what you're saying. But yeah, for me, I would probably agree more with Don. But like,
No, I think he gave him an extra point because he's a Chelsea fan, and that's
for sure. But
and also has been lackluster, and our keeper has been non-existent. So
for sure,
he can't do anything about that. So I think his decisions. I forgot one last thing I didn't mention was his decisions have been very bold. Dropping Kepa, for example, and changing the system when he felt it was necessary, and it has paid off in some games. Like the Wolves game, I can think of earlier in the season, and then Spurs. So I mean, he's had some brilliant moments. So I mean, if he wins the FA Cup, definitely a 9. But otherwise, you have to say at least an 8. I think.
Yeah, I think that sums up quite a bit about Chelsea. I will look forward to talking with you guys before the FA Cup final. That'll be a great conversation before and after. And let's see how that goes. I'll get your thoughts on that on the next episode. But thank you so much for joining me today, and have fun. Have a good night. Take care, and see you guys soon.